From Journey with VRD, you're listening to the Visions, Missions, and Manifestations podcast, the number one place for spirituality, healing, and transcendence. I'm your host, Vivian Dayan. Now let's get into it. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm so good. I'm so happy that this worked out for us tonight.
I'm so happy too. It feels like serendipity and just
It really
right.
aligns so kismetly. I was literally sitting today at lunch like, okay, who do I want to connect with and create a great podcast episode to help people come into consciousness with a new modality for self-discovery and ascension. And I felt like so many people in the Journey with VRD community chat always say, Joy Dushey, Joy Dushey, Joy Dushey. And I was like, okay, thank you, universe.
It's amazing. And I my week is, full next week. And I was supposed to be away today and tomorrow. So I just love that I have the flexibility and I feel like it's so aligned for me. I just discovered one of my lines, and I don't know if you're familiar with the Gene Keys and human design. And my gift is actually, or my purpose in life is to ascend. And so ascension is such a powerful word for me. When, I checked out your podcast, which is amazing. Congratulations. I was just so elated, and I feel that it's so in alignment, as you said.
Well, I did write a little introduction for you, for the listeners. On today's podcast episode, we're welcoming Joy Dushey, an intuitive healer, mentor, sound healing coach, and multidimensional healing breath guide who even has her own podcast called the Mythology Podcast. Please join us, giving us a warm welcome to Joy Dushey. Welcome, Joy.
That's such a lovely introduction. Thank you so much. I'm truly so honored to be here with you.
I am even more honored and grateful that you're here and that you made it. It sounds like from everything I've read about you that you're really doing all the things, that you're really tapped in. And what personally grabbed my attention about you was the multidimensional healing breath guide that you embody. I was also thinking how there's these big, deep concepts that people who are in the spiritual realm and in this work kind of really understand to a level where we get it and we could talk about it in a way that seems nonchalant to the person who has no idea what these words mean. And when we bring these words into the mainstream, it makes the woo-woo behind the word more normal and more digestible. So I wanted to hear a little bit more about what you do and what that's all about.
Yeah, I'm so happy you said that. Thank you. It's beautifully articulated, and it's important, I feel, for people to feel that they can relate to what we're sharing here. So I always like to bring it very, down to earth and really ground people in and make everyone feel welcome, that they can be a part of this kind of healing. So essentially what multidimensional healing for me is when we welcome all of our parts, we welcome all the dimensions that we are. We're not just a physical body. We are spiritual beings living in a physical body. We have the spiritual aspects of us. We have the physical emotions. The physical bodies. We have the emotional bodies. We have our spiritual self. So there's so many different dimensions that make us who we are, as well as our shadow aspects, which are the lower dimensional aspects that we're not so proud of, right? The ugly, not beautiful parts that we're going to, demonstrate on social media or whatever, because we're not so proud. But when we welcome those parts of us, because we are human, we start to accept ourselves more, and then we integrate more and more of who we are in an authentic way. And that's where the healing really takes place. It's really when we don't just, shove those parts of us and ignore those parts of ourselves, but we welcome all of our parts into the healing space.
I think that's so beautiful, especially because sometimes we like to just shove our insecurities or the parts of us that we're not proud of, even past memories, under the rug, because a part of us, I think it's a really more spiritual thing than just I hate these parts about myself, or I don't resonate with these parts about myself anymore. I'm going to shove them under the rug. I think what it really is when we're in those moments of hiding our shadow is we actually know that there's a version of ourselves out there that we are feeling more aligned with, an identity that we do feel more called to embody. And so I really like what you do in inviting all the parts of ourselves to the stage so that we can like make friends with the parts that maybe we don't feel too confident about in the current moment. So that's
For
so
sure.
nice.
And all of those, yeah, and all of those parts of us, right? Our inner child as well is so important to bring those parts in. Like you said, the memories that we maybe shy away from, maybe they're too painful, maybe we have disassociated from those parts. And what's so important is actually to listen really carefully when those parts are actually calling out for attention and are wanting to be seen, wanting attention. And we can actually allow for so much more healing. And this is how we get free in our lives. This is really what the essential goal is, to come to that place of freedom, because when we're actually accepting those parts and also allowing for that healing to take place, wow, what is on the other side of that. I'm sure you know that, Vivian, and have experienced it yourself. I have a feeling.
Yeah, so I definitely had so many different experiences where I feel like I first became aware of myself and then of, I explained it like this the other day to somebody where there's been parts of my life that I didn't necessarily not like. I didn't not like my life or hate myself, but there were parts of my life where I was just like, this is life, and felt like there was so much more out there for me and so much more in life, from life. There was so much more from relationships and experiences, and just the path that I was on just felt so out of whack for me, even though I at the time didn't know that there was another way. I never saw it, but I felt it. And I feel like that's a part of awakening, right? The awakening that everybody talks about. And throughout a lifetime, I feel like people can, if they're willing and want to, go through so many of those. And I'm so interested to hear about how you got into this work. And I'm sure you yourself went through so many quote unquote awakenings.
It's so true. I definitely, all of this came about from one of the greatest awakenings of my life. I think it was like the real big one that really took me from living what I call a linear path, and where I didn't really feel that I was living with the true purpose and meaning in my life, or I wasn't in touch with that. And I felt really sad about, like you said, like life didn't feel enriching and exciting and juicy the way life feels for me now. Or maybe my fulfillment was very temporary and it wasn't, you know, long lasting and meaningful. And so unfortunately, I was sick. I had an ischemic stroke that really put me, yeah. And I went into a very, depressed state after in the recovery of that. And I was recovering for about a year from the stroke. And that was the real rock bottom, the dark night of the soul for me, where I was really like, what the F? Like, what am I doing? Like, with my life? This doesn't all, because I was just forced into this state of like really being alone with my thoughts and questioning my life really up until then. Like, am I living a purposeful life? And I was no longer running or numbing with all these external fulfillments and so on. So it was really that catalyzed this insane rebirth. It was just so beautiful what transpired on the other side of that darkness, because that's when I started to heal my body holistically. I found holistic living and healing. And then that led, it was just this amazing cascade of beautiful findings on the spiritual path, on the holistic path, a world that was so dimensional for me and no longer linear, and meeting like-minded people that were also interested on that path. And that was just a beautiful journey. I wouldn't say that it was complete bliss and skipping through the tulips and rainbows and unicorns the whole way up until where I am today, which is 20 years later. I've gone through many, bouts, steps back, and then I rediscovered another facet of my being through another awakening, and so on and so on. So, but that was really the great awakening of my life. That really was the life-changing moment.
That is so intense, but in such a beautiful way. It was like almost like the puzzle pieces connecting. So, what was like the shift for you that you had to make when you came to this realization of like, okay, I'm not really living a purposeful life? What was a shift that you had to make in order to get on the path of living a fulfilling life? Were there any things in your life that you had to change, break away from?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think this is really my ethos for living, is that when something's not in alignment, it's time to walk away from it. When something is not feeling in alignment with your truth, you need to find the courage to walk away and to really muster up all of the courage that you possibly can. Um, you know, Really, and it has so much to do with trust. It has so much to do with really the faith that there is so much light on the other side of that um, darkness, or whatever that suffering is in your life, whatever is causing you that pain, stuckness, non-fulfillment. And so for me, this has been the greatest tool that I have really, or the courage to really say no to what is not in alignment, to whatever, whether it's relationships, whether it's what you're spending your time with, your career, what you're choosing to eat every day, where you're like spending your time. It could be like the city that you're living in, like all these things that really are so important. And when you're able to get the courage, it's just such proof that you're co-creating with the universe, and that's how we manifest, and that's how we start living way more aligned with our dream.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. And in the beginning of this episode, you were talking about how ascension is really something that is key for you. And I feel like when we talk about the many awakenings that we have with each one, we ascend into the next layer and the next level of our experience here. And you get to become this version of you who takes lessons, wisdoms, and even come to meeting these different gifts and guides along the way that help you and make life easier. And I feel like one of your gifts is definitely how intuitive you are to both like yourself and what you need, and also what other people around you are projecting energetically or wanting from you energetically, which is so cool to witness even in conversation with you. And so I wanted to know what your strongest sixth sense is, or one of your gifts, one of your spiritual gifts that help you out with what you do with your services.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I definitely feel that my intuition is my greatest tool. And I believe that I know that I have the clairsentient sense, so I can feel, and I will get lots of validation through my clairsentient gift, I'd say. I believe we're all capable of having stronger intuition. And I think that throughout the journey of what I've been up to in the past, I mean, let's just say the past 10 years when I've really started my practice and then have, grown my practice, it really came from my trusting my intuition and the building of the muscle of intuition. And then it got stronger and stronger. I also have clairvoyance, so I can see too. And I've had a lot of visions as well. And some that I actually manifested, which is, I believe that they are miraculous, but I don't. But then again, I also understand so much of the metaphysics behind manifestation and how that really works. It's pretty remarkable. I'm obsessed with Gaia TV and all these, so I understand it very well. And yet I do feel that, the more that we can attune to what we need, what's true for us, what needs to be, edited out and released, that's not in alignment, the more that we can grow our intuition, and also the more that we can co-create with the universe.
Wow. You're very strong. And for the listener to kind of get a better idea of who you are, do you know your astrological trio?
I do.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah. So I'm an Aries sun, and I am a Gemini moon and Aquarius rising.
Wow. And do you resonate with them? Do you feel like they take
For sure. They
sure.
all, I mean, I love, you know, looking at my chart and all the aspects of my chart. And I feel that it's really beautiful to treat each aspect, with such, care. Like,
Hey there, it's Vivian, and I'm briefly interrupting this podcast episode because I am so excited to share with you some of the new ways that we can work together. I've included new services to my site, and one of the cool ways to work with me now is in real life, in person. Hey, come into my energy. Let's manifest it in person. So that's really cool. That's a VIP day. That's where I curate the most perfect manifestation day for you. But that's not all. I also am now offering a group manifestation immersion starting April 1st. It's going to be a 4-week manifestation immersion. It's called Hot Girl Spring because we're springing into summer, already manifesting the thing we would have wanted to have for summer. So, like, if you're wanting to book that Europe trip this summer with the girls, like, let's manifest that raise now. Like, let's do it. If you're wanting to manifest a boyfriend to bring to all the weddings, barbecues this summer, like, let's do that too. That's going to be so much fun. Let's hop into summer with the things that we want, but like, let's manifest it in spring together. And it's going to be full of party, happy, fun vibes as we celebrate each other's successes week after week. So if that sounds like something you want to do, head over to the website or DM me, like slide into my DMs, Journey with VRD, and let's see if this is a hell yes for you. Because it's really important for me that you feel like this is a no-brainer. Anyway, I love you guys. Let's get back to the episode because this is a juicy one. So talk a little bit about what a session looks like with you.
a session with me is pretty much where right now I'm focusing more on coaching people with the alchemy. So basically, it's a fusion of where I'm helping like high achieving women that are really driven with a purposeful mission, women like yourself, like people that are looking to really grow themselves, and their mission is really like derived from something just like ourselves, like meaningful purpose, and they're really looking to step into more of their self-actualized version of themselves, and they're very committed and driven, right? And so because of that, they come in and maybe there are some blocks that they're, working through. And so what I help, where I'm actually meeting them in the fifth dimension, where there's all this beautiful energy of, the fifth dimension, which is unconditional love, acceptance, and compassion. And my higher self is connecting with their higher self. And this is where we really are I'm intuitively able to draw like what's really most present here, what needs the most attention to really release. And we start with, this intuitive therapy talk. And then I probably will give some resources. We'll do some somatic experiencing, which soma means of the body. So I'm never only coaching from the mind. It is always giving them energy tools. And we're doing some of this experiencing where we're releasing what is being stored in the body. And then we'll get into some breath work, sound healing as well. And all of this is just this fusion of a method of coaching. And this is where we are manifesting. And it is unbelievable to witness the outcome of these types of sessions. I usually really like to work on an ongoing basis. I leave it up to the client to choose their cadence and how often they want to come in. My goal for my client is for them to be their own guide and their own healer eventually. And yet I just keep helping them to support them and to witness this growth and this expansion.
Wow, what is so beautiful and that I admire so much is how you are not just working with the physical body and the physical plane, you're also working with the emotional body, the spiritual plane. You know, I know there's like 7 bodies that you're probably moving in and out of. And to be working from the 5th dimension which is the dimension of what ifs, endless possibility. I could definitely see how it's so healing for somebody who's been blocked and limited to all of a sudden have this like episode of liberation and freedom. And it's beautiful that you get to guide them through that. That is so,
Thank you so much.
I mean, it's so cool. Like, I think it's like probably where, in my opinion, humanity is going in terms of therapy, self-discovery, and self-transformation and ascension. And like, it feels like it's such a necessity right now where there's so many people like waking up, if you want to call it, from living in this robotic autopilot or even just aware, but feel stuck like there's no outlet for them or path to get into their purpose and to be the person that they feel like they could be, but don't know exactly what that is and get the clarity. So that's such wonderful and wholesome and purposeful work that you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much. I feel so happy just hearing your reflection. Like you totally get it, where, it's like you're right there and you understand it so well. And it seems like you definitely, this is your jam and this is,
this is my jam. This is the podcast. This is like making it normal because I feel like a lot of what we're talking about to some people are like, ooh, that's witchcraft or that's woo, because whatever you don't understand, people like to just push it. Like, that's so weird. Like, I want to stay in the matrix. I want to stay with my blindfolds and just live a linear life. But the whole idea of the 5th dimension, which is where humanity is going as a whole, is instead of a linear direction, it's more like, okay, what's possible for me, and consciously choosing not just one thing, but many things. Like you said, you're a multidimensional healer. So being and tapping into the many dimensions of the self and the identity and learning that you could tap into any identity at any time that you want to embody, which is, fantastic and like evolutionary in some ways, even though this stuff has been around forever. I think it's finally becoming normal.
Yeah, I love it. And honestly, it doesn't have to sound as, out there or woo woo. It's really, this is very tangible work that we're just really tapping into what's wanting to be present in the session, right? And if we think about the alternative, right? Think about the alternative, what it's like to not experience all of our dimensions and to live that linear life, that path. It's such a rat race. It's really exhausting. It's kind of like being on the hamster wheel every single day and like, okay, what fulfillment am I going to turn to today? Am I going to go shopping? Am I going to, have a tequila or, I'm not putting those things down, but if that's where you are really relying on for your happiness, it's like this endless pit. I hate to say it. And that's not what is going to actually add fulfillment and joy into your life. So that's why we really want to get in touch with what's underneath that, what's going on for you, and how do I get out of this matrix, as you said. So when we said, like we bring all of our parts, I work with also the like internal family systems where we want to welcome all those parts that are really maybe blocked, where are believing these limiting beliefs, these negative loops that keep us held back. And so that's why I'm really listening very carefully in the session. And I'm wanting to welcome those parts that are saying, wait a second, this is like 14-year-old Alexandra, for example, who is just really, really stuck on this belief that she's not worthy. And then we work through that. So I'm just giving examples of what takes place as well in the session.
So did you ever have a moment where you were like, I don't know if I want to come out of the spiritual closet and be this version of myself because maybe people are going to think I'm weird or judge me or just not get me. Did you ever have that? Or were you confident you went from like an extreme, I need to change my life now, into something that feels purposeful and meaningful for me? I'm just going to do it anyway.
It's such a beautiful question. I really love that because it is something that I did struggle with. And to be completely candid and honest, I think for sure, cultural norms that I come from and the communities that I come from, I definitely struggled with that. And it was, where I felt that I needed to break out of this body glove that I was staying small in and not really sharing my truth. And that was a while back. I remember it was really like, I totally felt like I came out of the closet and was voicing my truth and sharing about, what my life was living with PTSD, anxiety. These were the things that were not spoken about at that time as openly, but by far, it's really been radical. And I'm so happy that people are talking about mental health and all these things. And then I started to, really feel more in my comfort zone. And I knew I was being judged, and I was like, guess what? In order to do something great in life, you have to accept that you're not going to be liked by everybody. And that's okay for me, because even if I reached one person, that was really fulfilling for me. Or even to just share my truth was so liberating for me and say, this is Joy. This is who I am. And guess what? I'm here to make a difference. This is my life purpose. I'm here to actually live according to my truth.
That's so, so, so beautiful. And also how you felt that even getting and connecting with one person was more meaningful than the life that you were living previously to that, which is so, like, it takes so strength and bravery to even do that, because of all the people that are going to look at you funny and be like, what is she doing? Because it's different, because people didn't get it at the time, because not enough people were talking about it and showing how living spiritually in your alignment, in your purpose, is actually the most fulfilling, rewarding, and like best way to live life. Because like you said, you get to manifest these experiences and these visions that you want to live and experience and feel in the human body. And that's like so much fun to do. Like, I envision it, so I made it happen,
It's amazing. It really is.
What is your big vision for your services and what you do? What is the big vision and the mission?
I definitely feel the purpose and what I feel like is almost like a golden chain of passing along what I'm sharing, what I've learned and acquired, and also passing it on to others. So I love to mentor women and certify people with the breathwork alchemy and energy healing, like in that fusion of what I've created and curated with breathwork. There's nothing that gives me greater joy than actually witnessing, like I said, others that are sharing their gifts. And if I can mentor and certify these women in a very intimate container, it's very personal, and because I really want to help them to curate their style, right, their gift, and so it's so beautiful to hold the space for them and witness that. I love that. I also really love to bring conscious community together. So in gathering, that's my Gemini. Like, I love to bring people and have these meaningful gatherings and also have fun. I feel like life is really just, we're here to just enjoy and live with joy. So I'm not, there was a time, I'd say, when I was like going through my trainings in the beginning, and I told my daughters, okay, you can have all my designer clothes. I'm done. I'm going to live like super simple, like just, I was really into the bohemian look, and I was traveling to California a lot for my certifications. But I actually love nice things. I have Venus is right next to it's adjacent to my sun, and I love beauty. I love I do love designer things. I love aesthetics. And so I love to incorporate and bring people that are not really into the spiritual world and incorporate both worlds, and have that that unity between the two. And so in these conscious gatherings, I love that, and hosting and entertaining. And so and living a life where I know that I'm living my truth, that each day I'm staying in my lane, and my lane is that ascension, that more evolved version of myself, that that my higher self is in the driver's seat most of the time, and just checking in, like, when is my ego like taking over, and then doing that spiritual work. So I'm so devoted to the spiritual path. I'm not really so concerned with the external dream, as far as like having the dream home. And I care about having a beautiful home and living well, and just being around my family and having so much love in my life. And for me, it's more of the meaning than the material aspect of it.
And I think it's so cool and such a point to be highlighted, that just because you're a spiritual, conscious, awakened being doesn't mean that you're not going to like nice things, that you're not going to want luxury, that you're not going to want the human experience. Like, we are humans and we're here to enjoy all those things. And those things are here for our enjoyment. And we can have both, you know? One doesn't mean that you can't have the other. And that could be somebody's shadow work that they come to work on. I think that's like amazing.
Absolutely. I love it. I'm so happy you agree and you're on the same page there.
Yes, of course, because I think it's part of being a multidimensional person, having those different identities that you resonate with, and also seeing the common thread through who you are as a person. What I do with my clients is I bring them to their ascension by looking at the whole picture. So we look at every aspect of your life. Where are you saying yes that you wish you were saying no? Like, that's like the first roadmap to like shifting into the version of you that you want to be, right? And it's such a funny thing. It's so simple. It's like, okay, let's just start with this. Like, where are you not feeling good in your life? And then it's like, oh, I don't have to continue saying yes to those things. And some things are easy, just as like certain foods that don't make your body feel good, but some are a little bit harder. Like, I can't just, for the person who works the 9 to 5, I can't just leave it and not have money to live life. But what we do is we work through the attachment and the beliefs around that. Okay, well, how else do you think you can make an income? How else do you feel like you could, provide services and get financial freedom in return? It's like working through the stories that we attach to our blocks is so important when it comes to this kind of work. And it could be, that was just an example, but it could really be with anything, like staying in a partnership or a relationship where you're like, I'm staying because it's comfortable, it's easy, and because I put so much time and effort into it. And that's like the story that you created around why you're still saying yes to something that just doesn't feel good and keeping you back from living your ascended reality.
Oh, definitely. I'm so happy that you share this and you see this, and it seems like you're just an incredible guide. It's
Yeah. So
amazing.
I recently actually like got out of the manifestation coach and moved towards ascension, because what I teach is your journey to the 5 dimensions of ascension. So I have like, there's 5 dimensions to your ascension, and you have to move through each one in order to fully show up into the manifested reality that we work on. And through each dimension, just like with life, there's portals and loopholes and doors. And sometimes the portal is opened by accident, but it still happens in divine timing because it's meant for you. And sometimes you got to actually move through the journey to get through the door to get to dimension number 2. But the dimensions, all in all, are really simple. And I think the most simple things are the most truthful things. Like, truth is found in simplicity. For example, like dimension number 1 is getting crystal clear, like getting crystal clear on the life you want. And sometimes that means, let's start by knowing what the heck you don't want. And then we move into the second dimension, which is taking inventory, or you could look at it more like the purge, like really just purging the self that has expired, the skin that's expired, like a turtle leaving its shell. It's outgrown it. And then the third dimension is stepping into the new body. And the fourth dimension is the daily practice. And the fifth dimension is the ascension and integrating that new self. And sometimes it takes years or months, and sometimes it's weeks, and sometimes it happens just like that. And it doesn't just happen once. We're currently consciously or unconsciously choosing whether or not we want to stay the same, or if we're ready for the next level in our life.
Yes, absolutely. I think, wow, it's so powerful. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you. It's definitely been a journey. And like you, I've definitely had a hard time and a long time of identifying with this part of myself. Like you said, like for you, the turning point was the stroke. For me, when I was in 8th grade, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. I don't know if you know this already. And my parents took me to every doctor you could possibly imagine. And I was just like this little 12-year-old. And the doctors kept saying you had Crohn's. And something so deep inside of me said, no, I don't. And I remember they'd list all of the symptoms and they'd be like, do you have this? Even if I did, I'd be like, no, because I just didn't want the title, because I feel like titles could also be so limiting. Like, because you have this is your fate, or because this is who you are, this is your fate. And I never resonated with that. I mean, never resonated with somebody else deciding who I got to be or didn't get to be. And we finally stumbled upon a manifestation coach, an EFT practitioner. And I remember she took me into a room privately without my parents and said, like, do you think you have this? I'm like, no, I don't have it. She's like, well, then don't take the medication. I'm like, fine, I won't. And I remember like throwing it out. And when I went to go get tested again, they're like, it's completely gone. But Crohn's is a disease. It's not, something that goes away. So they're like, you're just, it's dormant right now. And then every single year afterwards, when I got tested, it just wasn't there. And to this day, I take no medication. I have no inflammation. And it's just like one of those things where at 12 years old, this little middle schooler, I was like, if I could manifest perfect health, I can manifest popularity. Like I could be the hottest girl and every boy is going to fall in love with me. And I remember I read every manifestation book in Barnes and Nobles. Esther and Jerry Hicks Ask It Is Given, every single one, like all these different books. And I would just like manifest these crazy things. And that was my beginning in a very naive way, manifesting these. It was my door. It was my door to spirituality and so much more. But it was
That's
definitely,
amazing.
yeah. Yeah. I feel like I remember having a conversation with you so many years ago where I asked,
Mm.
I guess we were talking, and just by the way you were speaking, I was like, okay, this person knows what's up. And I remember asking you, what do you think is the thing that brings people into this type of work? And
Mm.
I remember we were both just thinking about it. And I was thinking, does something bad have to happen to somebody in order to wake them up? And I still to this day, I wonder, because even if your life is so amazing and like nothing ever happens, but you have a curiosity, would you really stick with it? Why would you change from what's familiar and comfortable? I feel like it's only when we have a life-changing event happen in our life that we find this work and realize how powerful it is and want to continue with it.
Yeah, I think based on my experience, it's funny that I said this to someone today, a client, that I do believe that the greater the challenge, the greater opportunity for something amazing to happen on the other side of it. Because from my experience with other colleagues, people like yourself, when there was a break, some kind of really a challenge, a dark night of the soul, that's when we're faced with that really, really, huge question, like, what are we here to do? And how do we want to change our lives? And then there are people that might just fall into victimhood and just, not get on the bandwagon and want to change and do such great things. But I do believe, there are people that I've seen, many of my clients that have come to me, and they do feel that something in their life, there's some kind of impasse and there's some kind of break that happens, even if it's not so extreme. It's not a great, like a huge circumstance or a great challenge, where they just feel really lost from who they are, and that can be a catalyst for waking up. So I've helped many of those people with getting in touch and having a deeper experience with themselves, and allowing them that permission to listen carefully about who's coming online now, and what are the voices, what do you need to, right, to hear and to awaken those parts of you. And it's really beautiful to see how, I mean, even in just one breath work session, like I'm thinking about a Sangha where these people have come and they just, the tears, because they haven't had that access to themselves. So, yeah.
And for the person who might feel like it's too late to make the change, that it's, I'm waking up to this, or I'm becoming aware of my possibilities and my power too late, what would you tell them?
I was just talking to a colleague yesterday about this, and how even there are people like in their 60s that wake up and they're like, it's, there's something that is nudging them, and they even if the changes are subtle, that absolutely it's never too late to wake up. And it doesn't mean that just because we're changing our lives, we need to be these, groundbreaking, thought leaders or whatever. But it could be something subtle about how you're living your life day to day that can be just so groundbreaking.
And so, is there a tool or a practice you'd give to somebody who has one foot in, one foot out on going down this path of evolution and self-transformation and discovery?
Yeah. Thank you. I love that question. I do feel that we need a set of rituals that really are unique to each person, right? I'll never give a design to the same design to every person. Like we really extrapolate like what really speaks and what fits into your lifestyle. So for me, for example, I never start my day without saying gratitude and meditating and journaling and and I just look forward to those practices because they really enrich my life, and I just feel so different after my practice. So we need those practices. We need to get outside and, have some sunlight and take a walk and breathe in fresh air and move our bodies. I mean, there are so many different things that we can do. Hydrate, eat healthier, connect with people that are more aligned with you, like-minded people. There's just, it's endless what we can draw from. But when you have those rituals, they really enhance and bring you into your higher self. They bring you into that higher version of yourself, and it becomes infectious. You start to feel way better in your life. You're starting to feel like you're in the flow. Now you're living the quantum, living. And it's just it's beautiful. So
well, thank you so much. If people want to learn more about you, book a session with you, how would somebody connect with you? How would somebody find you, learn more about you?
Yes, thank you. To book a session with me, you can go to my website, joy@thejoyfulapproach.com. I'm also on Instagram at The Joyful Approach. And yeah, you can just book through that. I do have new, my website is being revamped. And so there's an upgrade happening. And so there'll be a different package soon that you can purchase if you're looking for ongoing sessions.
I love that. And then I guess one bonus question that I am personally interested in is what were or have been or are on your list some of retreats or spiritual experiences that either you've done and you were like, that was one of the best, or that you're like, I really want to do an experience?
Oh my gosh, what a great question. Now you're getting me fired up. So if I look back, I'd say all of my trainings with my teacher, David Elliott with two T's. He's a breathwork, amazing teacher. And I can't even tell you, the community of learning from him was unbelievable. So anyone that is looking for breathwork training in a group setting like that and community, I love David. And I went to so many of his trainings, and one was in Joshua Tree, and that was level 4. So like, there's just such great experiences to be had. I'd say going to Esalen in Big Sur was one of the most incredible experiences for me. So you can check that out. I believe it's like God's country, and it's just so powerful to be there. It's beautiful. I think going to Sedona and immersing myself in the work of Caroline Myss, been there several times, and you will definitely come back transformed in the best way possible. It's just a lot of energy. So make sure you have time to integrate after. So I think I'm trying to think if there's any other retreat. My retreat was in Tulum a few years ago, and that was amazing. That I facilitated. Hopefully I'll have another one soon.
Yeah. I'm telling you, you're so into it. Like every question I have, you're like answering before I even ask.
Yeah, I think that, working with some of the teachers that have really changed my life, and just being in that conscious community, but in the beautiful setting, like somewhere that maybe in Italy, in a gorgeous, like I want it all. I want to put it all together. Like I don't want it to be, so I'm sorry to say, crunchy granola and learn. I hope that doesn't sound mean, but I'd love to do like a 5-star retreat somewhere with a few amazing teachers and modalities for healing. That's my dream.
I could see that. I could literally see that happening. I mean, yeah, why not? Hey, if you like this podcast episode, please download it, give us a nice review, and follow us on Instagram at Journey with VRD to get all the latest and the greatest updates. Till next week.